What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel, the #1 place for new coaches, content creators, and entrepreneurs. In today's video, I really want to answer a question that I got over here on my Instagram all about how to manage money as a new entrepreneur, because I completely get it. When you are first starting out your business, it's not like you're necessarily swimming in cash, and therefore it's really hard to take the advice of investing in your business and investing in yourself when you have barely any cash to start off with. That's why if you find yourself in this position, I want you to keep watching this video because I'm going to share with you some of my strategies and also some personal advice on how I was able to grow my business from 0 to 6 figures without having much money to start off with. So if you're interested in diving deep into this topic, then keep on watching. Now, if you're someone who's watching this video, you're trying to start your business up full time, you don't have another job on the side or any income coming in, then the first recommendation that I have for you is to get a part-time job. Now, I know that this might sound like a shocker to you, especially since majority of us, we start our business to not work for anyone else. However, what I learned in my experience of leaving my 9-to-5 without a backup plan and trying to start my business from scratch is that not having cash flow coming in can really affect your abilities to make good decisions in business. Let me explain. When I was first starting my business from scratch and this YouTube channel from scratch as well, I had some money saved up and I thought that I would be a-okay. However, slowly but surely, when I saw my bank account basically draining every single day, it started to make me super uncomfortable. And that uncomfort translated to me making poor decisions in business. I was constantly cheaping out on essential services that I needed to grow. And by the way, if you want to learn about what softwares you might need or the softwares that I use to build my business, make sure you check out this video right here where I cover it all. But basically, I was cheaping out a lot, and that was doing a huge disservice to my business. Not only this, by seeing my bank account draining, I was now operating my business in fear. And that's definitely not the mindset that you want to go into when you're trying to build your empire. If you are trying to build your business out of fear, then you're always going to add unnecessary stress on yourself. That's why in order to protect your own mental health and your well-being, I highly recommend that you get a part-time job that's super simple, that doesn't take too much of your mental energy in order for you to get a steady paycheck coming in. For example, for me, when I was building my business and also building this channel from scratch, I eventually got a part-time job working as a coffee barista. And even though I was getting compensated minimum wage, working that job allowed me the flexibility, especially because it was part-time, for me to go home and work on my business without thinking about all the things that were happening in that coffee shop. For example, back then when I worked 9-to-5 in corporate, I definitely would not have been able to build this business because it was a high stress environment and I was constantly bringing work home. Versus by taking an entry-level minimum wage job, I didn't have that type of responsibility. All I did was clock in, clock out, and take a paycheck. And that was okay with me. Not only this, by seeing that I was at least getting money to feed myself, to grab a coffee, to live comfortably, and to not stress so much about money and seeing my bank account dwindle, it gave me a lot of peace of mind, and therefore I was able to operate more confidently in my business. That's why I highly recommend that you drop your ego, you take that sacrifice, and you get a part-time job to support yourself as you're growing this business. Now, obviously, everyone's financial and life situation is different. You might have kids to feed, a mortgage to pay, and therefore it's not that easy to just get a minimum wage part-time job. That's why if you are someone who already has a full-time job and you can't necessarily quit and go all in on your business, then at least use the portion of the paycheck that you receive from your company to invest back into your business. Really treat that company that you work for currently as your biggest investor. That is definitely something that I highly recommend if you are someone who has to stay within the 9-to-5. Regardless, the bottom line is that there are sacrifices that you need to make in order to run your business. It's not just peaches and rainbows. For me, did you think that I wanted to work as a coffee barista making minimum wage when in fact I was making $65K a year at my corporate job? Absolutely not, but it was a sacrifice that I was willing to make in order to free up mental energy, in order to not stress about money, and in order for me to stay focused in building my business with barely any distractions. Now, moving on to the next piece of advice that I have for you, especially when it comes comes to choosing what you'd like to invest in your business is to first ask yourself, can I do this myself? Now, I'm gonna give you another personal example coming from my journey in business. When I was first starting out, I almost spent over $2,000 to hire someone to do my branding, my logo, my website, and my photography. And thankfully, my boyfriend, who is also an entrepreneur, stopped me from making this investment. And what he told me was that there are plenty of other things that money could be used for other than pretty logos and pretty branding. And guess what? I completely agree. And the reason why I agree with this is because when you are first starting out, you don't really have proof of concept of what you're building is actually going to stick. Who's to say that a year later, you might completely change your business direction, or you might not get any traction in your business and therefore you're going to have to make a big pivot. Not only this, you probably don't have an audience yet that's actually going to give you feedback on your positioning, on your niche, on your personal brand, and all of that. You don't really know yourself yet. That's why I highly do not recommend that you invest in pretty branding, someone to develop your website, until you actually have proof of concept for your business. That's why I'm really glad that I took my boyfriend's advice, because instead of hiring someone to do my website and do my photography and all of that, I ended up using that money for more important things like incorporating my business and protecting my business legally. Not only this, because I knew I wasn't going to invest in having my own website and doing photography, I went the DIY route, meaning that I downloaded a plugin called Elementor, which, by the way, if you're interested in it, you can definitely check it out in the link below. My website was entirely built just using this drag and drop plugin, and I ended up learning this awesome skill of making websites. Not only this, in terms of photography, I ended up actually recruiting my friend Swana, who was also starting up her business, and I actually got free services from her in exchange for a shout out. So I actually was able to develop my website and get the photography for quite cheap. That's why when it comes to making investments in your business, really be honest with yourself if you're truly being the most resourceful that you can be. If there's something that you can't do, for example, legally incorporating your business, that is definitely something that is worth investing in. Versus if it's something that you can probably do, like creating your website, making a logo on Canva, then it's probably not the best investment. Now, the next question that you want to ask yourself when you're on the fence of whether or not you should invest or buy something is this: does this have the potential to generate me future income? If the answer is no to that question, then don't buy it. This was a question that I constantly had to ask myself to prevent me from going crazy with online shopping, buying new clothes, buying new shoes, buying new makeup. I always had to ask myself, if I buy this lipstick, will it actually generate me more income in the future? And truth be told, the answer was no. Where on the flip side, when I was considering to buy books, to buy courses, to hire a mentor, I asked myself the same question. Will investing in this have the potential to generate me more income? And most times it was yes. If I buy this Facebook ads course, I'm then going to learn how to do Facebook ads. And by having this new skill, I have the potential to generate more income that I didn't have before. These are definitely considerations that you want to make within your business to make sure that you are truly making the most out of your money. Now, the third question that you want to ask yourself when you're thinking of investing or buying things in your business is, will this save me more time? What you need to realize, especially as you grow in your business, is that your time becomes more and more valuable. And if you are able to invest in things that are going to save you time and actually make your life way more easier and way more efficient, then it is probably something worth investing in. For example, hiring a mentor or buying courses, although it can seem like a hefty investment, in the long run, you are actually saving yourself so much more time. I'm a firm believer that if I didn't invest in the courses that I invested in or hire the mentor that I hired, I probably would not be where I'm at today. I probably wouldn't have that necessary clarity and that necessary action step to actually move forward in business. That's why investments like these are well worth it. And beyond just courses and mentors, something as simple as software can also save you a lot of time as well. Let me give you another example of something that I personally struggled with when I was starting out my business. At some point in my business, I knew that I wanted to launch a course. I wanted to create a program that was scalable. And I was really debating between using softwares like Kajabi versus doing it the DIY route and simply downloading a WordPress plugin that could also host the course as well. And through my research, what I found is that even though downloading a simple free plugin on WordPress could have probably saved me hundreds of dollars, what I realized is that by downloading this plugin, I wouldn't get customer support. I wouldn't get the necessary resources that I need in order to actually run my course efficiently. And therefore, I would actually be spending way more time dealing with tech issues versus if I actually just invested in something like Kajabi that would do everything for me and that was super user-friendly. So as you can see here, obviously I spent more money to invest in the software, but I was also able to save a lot of headache in the short term and in the long term as well. Now, moving on to the next tip that I have for you when it comes to saving money and managing money within your business is to see your expenses as a percentage. Now, I'm gonna get super real and honest with you. I used to be the type of girl where my biggest goal was to buy a Chanel bag. And I remember really clearly my business made about $40,000 in revenue already. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have money now. I'm going to buy a Chanel bag. And this is where my boyfriend comes in again and stops me, or at least he gave me a really good wake-up call. He asked me, okay, your Chanel bag currently costs $10,000 and you've made $40,000 in your business. Have you realized that if you buy this Chanel bag, that this actually represents 25% of your total revenue, meaning you're going to be spending a quarter of the money that you've already earned on this one bag. And my mind was blown. It shook me to my core, and it was definitely the wake-up call that I needed. That's why I always see my expenses in percentages now, to really understand whether or not it's truly worth it and to understand the true weight of that purchase. Because what you need to realize is just because you have money doesn't mean it makes sense for you to spend it. Now, this all brings me to the next tip that I have for you when you're thinking about managing your money, and that is to track your expenses. Now, if you are just starting out in your business and you don't have the money to necessarily invest in better software, then I highly recommend you using the app Wave. Wave is a really great platform for you to track your expenses, track your revenue, and also invoice your clients or your customers. Now, eventually, you might want to actually upgrade your software, and the next software that I recommend is actually Bench Accounting. Bench Accounting is a bookkeeping software where you actually work with real bookkeepers to manage your expenses and track your revenue. And they also partner with your accountant in order to do your year end and all of that. It's as if you're basically having real bookkeepers because you actually have real bookkeepers. Now, as you can see with Bench Accounting, you can message your bookkeeper whenever you want. You can track your revenue, track your expenses, and one of my favorite features is actually being able to see everything in percentages so that I can manage my finances accordingly. So I cannot recommend them enough. And again, the link to sign up for a free trial is in my description box below. Now, on the topic of working with bookkeepers and all of that, the next tip that I have for you when it comes to managing your money is to make sure you are seeking out experts. Now, obviously, if you're watching this video and you are at the very beginning of starting your business and you don't necessarily have the capital yet to invest in hiring experts, at least what you can do is to make sure you are self-educating. Now, whether you choose to seek out experts, which is what I recommend, or you're at least self-educating by visiting forums and chatting with other entrepreneurs, you have to understand that there are a lot of little things within business that not a lot of people talk about, like how do you pay yourself? What is the most tax efficient way to operate your business? What can you expense or not expense? What platforms or merchants can you use to have the least transaction fees? There's so many little things. That's why if you're interested in me covering these smaller topics on little hacks and tricks on how you can actually save money and be more cost efficient in business, make sure you thumbs up this video so I know. In the meantime, I also would love it if you hit that notification bell, because in my next video, I'm going to be also talking about money and income. Specifically, I'm going to share what I've learned that has helped me generate a six-figure income by the age of 25. So make sure you smash that notification bell so you don't miss that video. Also, while you're waiting for all of that goodness, make sure you also check out these two videos that I have here as well. I talk a lot about social media, marketing, entrepreneurship, and all of that. So make sure you check out these videos here as well. As always, guys, I appreciate you. I hope you guys have a great day, a great week, and a great life, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.